Supreme Court ruling today that I don't think comes as a big surprise, given the fact that Donald Trump appointed count them, two neo-fascist Supreme Court judges, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. Gorsuch, of course, should not be on the Supreme Court under any circumstances, because it was his nomination and confirmation that was supposed to go to the nominee selected by Barack Obama almost a year prior to Gorsuch's confirmation. And thanks to that evil bastard, the good Christian Mitch McConnell, he would not allow any kind of debate, much less a vote, on the confirmation of, what was his name? Merrick Garland, I'm sorry. But anyway, the Supreme Court ruled today, the conservatives ruled in a 5-4 vote, that federal courts have nothing to say in determining whether partisan gerrymandering of a state goes too far, giving a dominant political party in that state the permission to draw electoral maps any way it chooses. Now, with the majority of states firmly under Republican control these days, it means that the Republicans can remain in control of Congress, both houses. Well, not so much the Senate, but certainly the House, because the dividing up of districts within a state, which the state legislatures are allowed to do, means that the Republicans now will do everything they can to further pollute and corrupt a representative system of government. They already have beyond belief. The 5-4 decision was written by the Chief Justice and joined by the court's other conservatives. This is what Roberts wrote, quote, "We conclude that partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of the federal courts. Federal judges have no license to reallocate political power between the two major political parties, with no plausible grant of authority in the Constitution and no legal standards to limit and direct their decisions, the Supreme Court decisions." Now, their decision today brings to a screeching halt recent decisions by lower federal courts across the country that have found that gerrymandering by, well, since forever, the Republican Party goes so far as to violate the constitutional rights of the people who live within those states and who might feel that they now have no voice in determining who they will send to Washington, which is essentially what this says. The Republican Party is in control of both the governorship and both houses of legislatures in 22 states, the Democrats in 14. Now, the easiest way to solve this problem, gerrymandering, is to turn the whole process over to the best university within each state's boundaries, this is my opinion, and go to their statistical analysis department, or whatever it might be called in a particular university, and using computers, have that university department divide the state realistically, not politically, but realistically into districts so that both Republicans and Democrats would have an equal chance of electing a representative from that district. Now, this is a way to do it. The way we're doing it is the way it was done, I don't know, 150 years ago, forever ago. The Republicans just never fail to freak me out completely. The Christian Republicans. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they obfuscate, they delay, they render decisions that are asinine as well as being detrimental to everybody in the country, and yet they continue to get elected, which speaks volumes not about the people being elected, but the people doing the elections, doing the voting. Christ. The point I'm trying to get to is that these three states that had declared or filed suit through federal courts that gerrymandering was illegal, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan, was unconstitutional, I should say. Those three states now, as a result of today's Supreme Court ruling, the legislatures of those three states, I realize Michigan is no longer under the iron control of Republicans. Wisconsin, not so much. Ohio, still. But the ruling today will mean that any state that is still under the control of Republicans can continue to fuck with the electoral system to a degree that ensures that the Republicans will remain in power for the foreseeable future in those states and secure federal power through the U.S. House of Representatives, where they can do the real damage, thanks to the so-called conservative United States Supreme Court. Now, the court was considering, in this case, a Republican drawn map in North Carolina and a Democratic drawn map in Maryland. The maps, which provided a 10-3 Republican advantage in congressional districts in the former state, in North Carolina, and a 7-1 advantage for Democrats in Maryland, that will remain, those maps, until they're redrawn after the 2020 census. Now, the court also ruled today that the census could not contain a question regarding citizenship, which Trump tried to push through as a result of the pressure from the capitalists who would like to eliminate huge classes of population, not voting population, just population, huge numbers, I should say. Because when there are fewer numbers, the Christian Republican fascists always win. Chief Justice Roberts, writing for the majority today, wrote this: excessive partisanship in districting leads to results that reasonably seem unjust. Okay. But, he goes on, the fact that such gerrymandering is compatible with democratic principles does not mean that the solution lies with the federal judiciary. Well, what does it mean? Excessive partisanship leads to results that seem, reasonably so, unjust. But to say that that unjustness is incompatible with democratic principles doesn't mean that the solution lies with the federal judiciary in being the referee in this case. Well, then, what does it mean, Justice Roberts? I mean, it seems like he's saying Yeah, the whole thing is fucked up. I will grant you that. Incompatible with democratic principles. This is the way he put it, the way I put it. Fucked up. Okay? But he says that doesn't mean that we can solve it. If the electoral process from which we draw our leaders is, in my words, and paraphrasing Justice Roberts, fucked up, then who do the people turn to for relief, for justice? Who? I thought the Supreme Court, the federal judiciary, was to be, especially the Supreme Court, was to be a nonpartisan referee of issues, whether or not they were constitutional and therefore permissible, or unconstitutional and therefore illegal. I guess I've been wrong. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.